There are a lot of video games. Feels like every day you can go on Steam and find 5 to 20 brand new games that you've never heard of that all released that day. It can be really daunting to keep up with that. And when you're someone like me who likes to talk about the games they play, it's hard to talk about all the games I do play in a year. You've got to do something like this. Talk about all the games I've played over the last month. This will allow me to talk about maybe some smaller games that I played that I won't make videos on. So let's get into it. Now I'm going to talk about the games I played in January, but a lot of these games I actually started playing even in December. I'm kind of jamming those 2 months together. The Christmas holiday is always a great time to just play video games all day. Starting off the list with games I've been playing over the past month or so, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. I'm actually just wrapping this game up as we speak. This is one of the games on my list for the year. It's an interesting game. It's an action RPG, and I think it is really like an action RPG game similar to Diablo or things like that, rather than what I thought it was, which was more an RPG game that just had action elements. The main story is actually very short, and now that I'm at the end of it, I think this is kind of where the real game starts, so to speak. So I'm a little tentative to give a full review of it. I feel like I've barely even scratched the surface of the game, even though I've played it for about 15 or so hours. It's an interesting game with a lot of different characters that you can play as. Each character plays very differently. I do want to dive into it a little more. I'm not really one to play those kind of grind out and end game type games, so I'm not sure how long I'll stick with it. But I definitely want to stay with it at least a little more before I do a full review of it to really get my thoughts together and see what the game really has to offer once you get deeper into each of these characters, each of their skill trees, and really get to see how they play at higher difficulties, because I found the main game was a little easy. Another game I've been playing kind of on and off is Yakuza 5. I love the Yakuza games. Yakuza 5 is no exception. I've actually been really enjoying it. This is one of the few Yakuza games so far that I really feel like diving fully into. I'm taking my time with it. I really am appreciating the approach that this game has with the multiple protagonists. Really makes it feel kind of episodic and doesn't make me feel as bad when I play it for a little bit and then step away for a while. And I've actually been doing a lot of the side content. I did pretty much all of Kiryu's, and now I'm right up towards the end of Seijima's story. I think there's 5 characters in total to play as, so this game might actually not get done for a while, because like I said, it is one that I'll sort of play for a bit, put down for a bit, and come back to. But it's Yakuza. I don't know. It's a good game. Those games are pretty interchangeable as far as gameplay and general experience, so I'm having a good time with it. Now for one of the smaller games I've been playing this month, Jusant, which was, I believe, just in a Humble Monthly bundle, which is where, of course, I get a vast majority of my games. This is an interesting kind of game. You're just climbing a mountain. It kind of feels... you control each of your character's arms with the triggers, essentially grabbing, releasing. It feels like it's supposed to be a kind of chill-out, just cozy game, but it's not really having that effect on me. I don't find it too engaging so far. I picked it up for a little bit and have sort of put it down for now. I'm not even sure that I'm going to go back and fully finish it, but we'll see. I don't like climbing in games, especially when it's, ironically, in trying to make it more, I guess, realistic or involved. It actually just makes it feel more tedious to me. I'm not sure if that was the intention, but that's sort of how I've experienced it. But if you just do want kind of a quiet, cozy game, I do appreciate that. They sort of show you the path that you should take, but then give you the tools to kind of make your own path as you're climbing up this mountain. So I think I can see why it appeals to some people. It's just not really clicking with me. Another big game I played was Pokemon Violet. My first Pokemon game in a long, long time that I really, really played through, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. I did a full review of it on the channel. If you want to hear my full thoughts, you can go check that out, but essentially, I'm just a casual Pokemon fan, and the way they sort of present the Pokemon, catching the Pokemon in Violet really worked for me. I really enjoyed going through the main story, catching maybe not them all, but most of them, and doing the battles, the gyms, the different storylines that the game had was pretty engaging and fun. Nothing amazing, nothing revolutionary, but just fun. I really had a fun, good time with Pokemon Violet. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I love puzzle games. Over the Steam winter sale, I picked up this game, Tobla Divine Path. I'd heard some good things of it and some of those hidden gems on Steam videos. Shout out to you guys for making me spend even more of my money on games that I will probably never play. And this is one of the games that I picked up. It kind of tries to be like Portal. You're a human in this world with a disembodied voice who's guiding you through, but man, this game's narrator is no GLaDOS. They tried, but the tone that the voice actor came in with just didn't work for me. They were grating, it was annoying. There was no real humor, it didn't land what they did try to do for humor. And the puzzle itself wasn't really that well executed. It's an interesting mechanic where you can swap positions of different boxes, but I don't feel like it was really realized in any exciting way. None of the puzzle solutions felt necessarily incredibly clever or difficult, and they all kind of just felt like the disc pyramid puzzle where you're swapping, moving a ring from one peg to the next to sort of get the bigger one on the bottom. I just think there was a lot more room there that they could have explored. They also kind of leaned into a lot of physics-based puzzles where they would have balls that would start rolling and then you would swap those. That was kind of annoying because if you misclick or whatever, you have to sort of reset the whole puzzle. And I really don't like. I talked about that in the Entropy Center where you know the solution, you know what you're trying to do, and then it takes you a long time to execute it, or you have to re-execute it because of a little mistake. So that really made the game feel more tedious than engaging. Next up, we have Nine Souls, another game I did a review of. This game's great. I loved it. A really cool Metroidvania Souls-like game that I somehow didn't hear about when it first came out earlier in 2024. It's a really tough, challenging game that has really cool ideas on how it handles its combat, very parry-heavy, very smooth control, very smooth exploration, really well laid out map as well. If you want to hear my full thoughts, check out the review. Alright, now most of those were games that I started in December towards the end of the year and sort of finished up in January. These last ones are the ones that I've really been playing in January. The first one being Persona 5 Tactica. Now this is another one off my list of games I want to play this year. I love Persona. I really like Persona 5 Strikers. I thought it translated the combat of those games very well to that Musou style without losing the core spirit of the games. Unfortunately, I don't think Persona 5 Tactica made the transition quite as smoothly. I don't mind the turn-based combat, but I really am not a fan of how they implemented the Persona combat system. The Persona games, the Shin Megami Tensei games their combat is so revolves around exploiting weaknesses and using that to give yourself extra turns. Whereas in this game, the only way you can get additional actions is to knock down enemies. But you knock them down by getting them out of cover, so it essentially is always a 1-2 where you have to use one character's action to get the character out of cover, and then use another character to finally knock them down. This just feels a little limiting, especially since the game only gives you 3 party members as opposed to the series' traditional 4. It feels really restrictive in what you can do in a single turn. Something I so much appreciate about the combat systems of these Persona games is how they let you essentially maximize the number of actions you can take in a turn. And with 4 characters especially, I think it just naturally feels a lot easier and better to do that. Whereas in this game, it feels like your turn is over before you've even realized it. And so it really caused me to reevaluate sort of my strategies and how I'm going through it. Still enjoying it overall. I just think it's a weaker entry in the series compared to something like Strikers, again, which I thought translated the game and the gameplay so well to a different genre. Another game that I played was Blasphemous 2, staying with the Metroidvania Souls-likes. It was one of the big names in the January Humble Monthly Bundle, so I picked that up immediately and started playing it. The Blasphemous series is weird for me. I really want to love them. I love the motifs, the theming, the presentation, but just find the gameplay a little lacking, a little clunky. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just okay. It's okay good to me versus great, amazing, which I would say Nine Souls was, for example. I like how they introduced multiple weapon types in this game, but especially coming off Nine Souls and just loving how they laid out that world, how smooth movement was, how smooth the combat was, going into a game that's a little less smooth by design too, sure, but still, it was just a little jarring and I think detracted from my overall experience. I did do a full review of this game as well, so if you want to hear all of my thoughts, you can check that one out on the channel. And finally, wrapping up January is another game from this month's Humble Monthly Bundle, Fort Solace. This is one that I'm still working through, but it's essentially a walking simulator. It takes place on Mars, and you work at kind of a remote station, and you get a mayday call from another very remote station. And when you get there, shocker, nobody's there, and we don't know what happened, and oh my gosh, it's a mystery. I like those kinds of games. That's a cool setup. It's very tense, very atmospheric. They really went all in on the acting talent, especially. This looks like it was made by a pretty indie dev, but they really went for it. It looks like they did full mocap. They got Troy Baker to be one of the characters, and of course he does a great job. So that really carries the game, since so much of it is the storytelling, the audio logs, the video recordings that you find as you're going through this that sort of tell you the story that has happened that you are now walking into the aftermath of. So those are the games I played over the last really 2 months. I do want to do these kind of moving forward each month. I wouldn't expect so many games in the coming months. What do you think? What games are you playing to start the year off? Let me know in the comments down below. What other games should I play for the rest of the year? What small little games should I kind of squeeze in while I'm playing some of these bigger games that I'm targeting to get off my backlog? Let me know, leave a comment. If you liked the video, be sure to like the video, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you all with the next video.